This is our political expert, Brian Sobel. Brian, there's no doubt that the relief bill should have been passed months ago. It wasn't, but they finally came to an agreement, and it was thought that the president would sign it, but then at the last minute, he moved the goalposts. He could have joined the discussion at any time during the last 8 months, but he decided to wait until the last second, and now this puts millions of people and businesses in even more jeopardy. What is the point of that?
I think, Frank, it's the last days of the president in office, and I think he's trying to make a point here that he's been making all along about the wasteful government spending and other things. However, as you point out, he and the White House could have been much more involved in the crafting of this legislation, and he just waited for it to get to him, or it hasn't actually got to him. It's been enrolled now, meaning it's in its final form and going to him. And we'll see what happens. There's still, I think, a good chance that he ends up signing this thing after lots of protesting.
Brian, 14 million Americans are scheduled to lose employment aid on Saturday. The government is set to shut down on Tuesday, and an eviction moratorium that has prevented millions from losing their homes during this pandemic ends on New Year's Eve. I read a story today in the Washington Post about a waitress who said, quote, "I've worked for 18 years at a diner under very hard conditions. I never called in sick except when my husband died. And now Congress is just leaving town. It makes me furious because they are leaving people hanging." What is happening, Brian, in Washington?
The same thing that always happens in Washington, Frank, and this is the frustration and the source of the frustration for the American people. Congress needs to stay until the job is done, and that may mean staying through the weekend, and many of them are, of course, but because they have another residence back there. But anyway, this is a part and parcel of American frustration with Congress. It's why Congress's ratings are so low. Nothing seems to get done in Washington, D.C., and here again, we hit a roadblock, and certainly it's what the executive branch, the legislative branch said, we're ready to go, and the president this time is saying no. And so this is going to go on over the weekend. There's going to be lots of back and forth between staffs of Congress members and the White House staff.
Brian, to a certain degree, it feels like we are being run right now by a rudderless ship. We have President Trump down at Mar-a-Lago in Florida playing golf today, while so many people are hurting. Why is it, do you think, this is the question that always comes to my mind, why is it that it feels like Republicans are terrified of standing up to President Trump?
I used to say that as well, Frank, that a lot of people just didn't want to take this president on for fear of what would happen at election time and that sort of thing. This time it's a little curious. Donald Trump is not going to be the president after January 20th. So one wonders what the calculus is among Republicans. And I think where we may see this play out is Republicans will vote for an override of the president's veto, should the president veto this legislation over the weekend. So I think that's where you're going to see many Republicans finally, after a long, long time, flex their muscles.
Well, you can just only hope that this relief bill, or that they increase the checks, and that is passed soon, because there are so many people right now in this country who are hurting. Brian, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us this afternoon. Thank you.
My pleasure, Frank.